I'll share a little bit of my background, a little story of what brought me into this field. So I have grown up multicultural, moving around a lot, still moving around a lot. And I knew firsthand what it was like to have arts and education versus not having them. And this is about 30 years ago. I took my first dance class and I'm walking across the bridge and I see this beautiful sunset. And I pause to take it in. And then I have this epiphany of how healing the arts are and how they can be the remedy for the emotional, mental, and physical ailments. And I think this is what Jung describes as, like a moment of individuation, just being hit by like a lightning bolt, not literally, it's just how it felt. This is my reason for this incarnation. I had never heard of expressive art therapy. And of course, I think it's a testimony to how this field has been growing over these last decades as to how we're being called to return to this indigenous wisdom of listening to, paying heed to our senses. And this is the rise of the pharmaceutical industry. So a lot of peers were getting on anti-anxiety, anti-depression medication. And I certainly see a place for medicine. And I was skeptic as a youth as to why we were pathologizing the individual and not looking at the root causes of the environment. So perhaps the prevalence of the anxiety and depression, for example, were communicating something really important we needed to listen to. And I, would realize, sometime later that decades earlier, Aldous Huxley was warning us that domination of society doesn't necessarily come just through obvious brute force, but through providing pleasure, comforts, distraction. And this can lead to a kind of complacency. So I was very motivated as a youth for trying to facilitate with this healing and self-agency. And going to college, didn't have the expressive art therapy program. So I created this with 3 different mediums and then I majored in dance and additionally psychology, and was very blessed to work with some stellar organizations. And I think, it doesn't take long that we're in this field that we can see that to facilitate with healing and the self-actualization is that what we're really also doing is we're facing and working with the undoing of systemic oppression, internalized oppression, and the effects and impacts of intergenerational trauma. And so this is why I think the arts are too so effective and so powerful, right? Is how they're activating something in us that's been frozen or repressed. I want to also just put a shout out to the arts now. Big fan of Bob Marley. So Redemption Song, Nadia, is one of my very favorite songs. And since I was probably about 12 years old. And, he's quoting Marcus Garvey and says here, none but ourselves can free our minds. So this is, this I'm finding is this, so it's central question of my life. How do we free our minds? And then there's Fannie Lou Hamer, civil rights and women's activists, who's saying nobody is free until everybody's free. And that just gives me goosebumps every time. Very strongly resonate with both of these. And it's like this dialectic, that can appear to be dissonant. And so looking at this bridge, what's the quantum leap is, I think really well said by Audre Lorde. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. So I think they're interchangeable. They exist, simultaneously. I also wanted to return to this question that was brought up early in the workshop. And that is, what is the relevance or effectiveness of expressive art therapy in times of war and genocide. And I want us to invite us in this field to really keep asking that question. Maybe we don't have the answers right away, that this is part of the story weaving. This is part of imagining, of asking this question. And to come back to hope, I want to share also this definition that I think is just the most beautiful description I've come across. It is important to say what hope is not. It is not the belief that everything was, is, or will be fine. The evidence is all around us of tremendous suffering and destruction. The hope I am interested in is about broad perspectives with specific possibilities, ones that invite or demand that we act. It is also not a sunny everything is getting better narrative, though it may be a counter to the everything is getting worse one. You could call it an account of complexities and uncertainties without openings. Critical thinking without hope is cynicism. But hope without critical thinking is naivety, the Bulgarian writer Maria Popova recently remarked. And Patrisse Cullors, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter, early on described the movement's mission as to provide hope and inspiration for collective action, to build collective power, to achieve collective transformation, rooted in grief and rage, but pointed towards vision and dreams. It's a statement that acknowledges that grief and hope can coexist. This is Rebecca Solinet